friends, it's Ray over at CigarClimatology. Again, reporting from there we go, wonderful shop, otherwise known as the Grimp and Meyer. Got a lot of work to do today, but it's been a while since I made a tasting video, a review for online, and so I thought it might be kind of fun. Now, I have just smoked some phenomenal cigars the past few days, and about the past 2 weeks, I'd say. I've been to a couple of herfs, and I smoked a couple of just fantastic Grandes de Españas, a lot of the regular cigars that I like to smoke, like to do Roy, some Diplomaticos, etc. But today, we're working in the shop, and I've got to make some parts on the machine, and I've got some people who have ordered a couple of things that I've just put off because I've just been too damn busy. And so I'm modifying a few things and making some custom power supplies, timers, and things that I do. And I thought, well, you know, it's great to get in the shop and listen to music and smoke and do all this fun stuff at the same time. And so while you guys are spending your Labor Day barbecuing and having a good old time, I'm slaving away at smoking a cigar and working on other people's projects. So with that in mind, I've chosen what I guess would maybe be whimsically termed a Yardgar. Like I said, I've just smoked some great cigars. This one is just really not all that descript, but I had a lot of problems with these, and what I was trying to do is I was trying to recapture the essence of the Royal Selection 12, the Punch, which was just a fantastic petite Coronas that you just used to buy by the cab and smoke like crazy. And while I've never been, well, shouldn't say I've never been, but for about the past decade, I really haven't followed this brand profile, what I now call a myth. There's always been something about Punch cigars that I have considered Punch-like. And I'm not really going to go into that right here at the moment. Let's see whether the cigar tends to deliver any of it. So for 2015 or in 2016, I bought a bunch of these Punch Coronation tubos. They were inexpensive, and you know, I guess one of the vendors somewhere along the line had bought too many of them, and they just wanted to lighten their load on some of them. You know, normally I won't buy tubo cigars because you're just buying the packaging. But as these things begin to load up on someone's shelf, they turn around and they say, well, you know, we better get rid of these because we got even more of them coming. So sometimes they put these either cardboard packages or tubos or, you know, some other type of packaging on sale just to get rid of them. Again, I would just as soon save myself the money of the tubo. I don't need the damn, you know, holder. What I was going to say, I'm not going to say. I don't really need this for anything. It's just an expense and probably costs more than the cigar itself. I mean, when you actually think about the tube being aluminum tube, and it being, you know, essentially processed, painted, and this little object here is worth more than the cigar itself in the marketing and real hard economy as far as value. This stupid little tube probably cost more, literally, than the cigar. It's got 3 or 4 paint colors on it. And when you start to think about, you know, the printing, the aluminum, all of that kind of stuff, and then the individual cedar sheet that's wrapped up and put inside, again, there's no doubt that this object costs more than the cigar itself. So I don't usually tend to, you know, kind of fall into the category of buying tube cigars. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started so I can get back to work. This is, if I did not mention it, the Punch Coronation, or it is actually Punch Coronations, and these are from 2015. I've had just notoriously poor luck with these cigars, but I was at a herf on Saturday. That would be a couple of days ago, and it was just winding down. A new friend that I had met there was just lacking something to smoke, and since he had just more or less come off of a cold, I said, well, here, smoke one of these. If we're going to sit here and you're going to hold something in your hand and you want to smoke something, it might as well be one of these things, because I'm not so super fond of them anyway. But let's go ahead and give one a try. And I'm smoking it today because he'd actually said, Ray, this was actually a pretty good cigar. I was pretty happy with this. Maybe I got one of the good ones. And I don't know, maybe he did just get one of the good ones. I've smoked through about 50 of them, and maybe of the 50 that I smoked through, I might have had 5 that I thought were really good, and the rest were just average or below average cigars. So let's give this one a shot, and we'll get some notes down here on the video, and then we'll discuss a little bit a little later after I get a little work done. Now, kind of funny, I've already noticed something about this cigar, which is kind of interesting. One of these days, I'll share the story about really the major start for me smoking cigars regularly. This cigar has what I call a casino smell. And it's just very interesting that the smoke off the foots, to me, is redolent of being in a casino that has had year upon year, decade after decade of people smoking either cigarettes or cigars, and mostly cigarettes. It's just the first thing that literally hit me the second that I lit it, and I don't always get that, so it's not something that I've just reserved for today. It's just the first thing that hit me on the head the minute I lit the cigar, is that it had a casino smell. Decent draw. This one's not too bad construction, but even now that it's just hot down here at the bottom, it's already too mushy for me. That's one of my major problems with some of these cigars from 15, 14 that I've smoked. Now, maybe a lot of you guys just have been loving these cigars and just think that they're, the cat's behind. But one of my problems with them over the past couple of years has been just their filling. I mean, I could go grab a Ramon Allones Petite Coronas or a Gonzalez Petite Coronas out of one of the humidors, which is just outside of the field of view here, and that thing would still be rock solid right here, even though the bottom of the cigar is hot. And it just seems to me that these cigars get hot quicker because there's just not that mass, essentially, to insulate the heat coming off the foot as it's going towards the head of the cigar. I mean, this cigar is hot down here, and I just lit it. And normally a 42 ring cigar like this, really shouldn't be this hot. To me, right in the beginning, I just haven't even smoked it much. Plenty of smoke. Again, the draw's fine. The construction on the cigar is typical Cuban. It's what I call crude. my other camera's inside the house, so I doubt I'm going to take any. Maybe I will when I shut the machine off here. I'll take a couple of snapshots of it and edit it into the video. It has a little bit of that punch taste that I've been looking for. And in fairness with some people's opinions, maybe this would develop some over time, and 2 years is just simply not enough time to develop it. I don't know that I buy into that. I've had this cigar now for at least a year, so this cigar is acclimatized. To me, this cigar should be every bit as good as it's ever going to be. That's just my humble opinion. I don't know that aging, 5 years worth of age or 10 years worth of age was going to substantially change what would be my opinion of this cigar. Again, this is subjective. I wouldn't know. You can only smoke a cigar once, etc., etc. We've gone over a lot of this stuff. It does have what I would consider, or at least whether it's a placebo effect, I couldn't tell you, but it does have a little bit of what I would consider that punchy taste. And I was trying to describe this to my friend the other day, but it's funny, while smoking a cigar, I really can't think of another cigar. I mean, I hate to say it, it's just how I'm wired. If I'm listening to music and someone says, well, what's that tune, out of My Fair Lady, I can't envision it while listening to other music. I just can't do that. That's one multitasking for whatever reason that I'm not really wired to do. I can't sing a tune in my head that's different from the one that's coming into my ears. And I think the cigar is kind of the same way with me. While I'm smoking one cigar, I can't really concentrate on what smoking this other one was like. And so I couldn't come up with it immediately, and I finally just said, yeah, it's this kind of peaty, kind of mushroom taste. It's not really woody per se. I can't attribute it to anything more than fungal, because it does have kind of a mushroom taste to me, a raw mushroom taste, which is a bit more pronounced. The only other thing, since I'm not really a large drinker, it's the only thing I can really kind of also attribute it to, or say that it's redolent of, would be a peaty taste out of a whiskey. When I try to describe it in terms of words, it almost sounds off-putting. It's not. It's very pleasant in a cigar, but if you were just describing it and someone were fishing through channels and said this guy's cigar tastes like peat and mushroom, doesn't sound all that good to me, I could understand that sentiment. But it's one of the things I was after when I was going back looking for the RS12 experience. Now, this friend, this is you, Graham. This friend had asked me to look for a couple of specific box codes of cigars because he wanted to try a couple of these cigars, and it just so happens that little experience, that adventure through some of my humidors looking for these box codes, allowed me to find this box of RS12s that I have. So perhaps after this one, what I'll do is I'll dig out the RS12 box, which is, it's close to 20 years old now. And we'll go ahead and we'll give one of those a shot, and we'll see just how good my memory of some of these cigars were, and whether this cigar is actually closer to that than my memory serves me. The cigar isn't bad. I'm not getting a lot of joy out of it, meaning that for this type of cigar, since it's not prominently sweet with compatible flavors and complexities that would make that a really interesting cigar, oat and honey, or cocoa and sweet, or something to that effect. This is more of that kind of meaty, pungent, but it just hasn't hit the zenith. It hasn't hit the point where those flavors are so robust and pronounced that I'd say, wow, this is kind of really like the RS-12, and this is really why I chose this cigar. This is really what I wanted. The taste is present, but it's not at the level that I would call it an excellent cigar. It's not really at the level I'd call it a good cigar. It's an average cigar. I won't say it's below average, but maybe even hinging on some of that, because when I get a cigar that doesn't really hit the performance level that I want, then I start becoming way more critical of some of the other aspects of smoking. Is it complex? Does it have constitution? Does the cigar evolve? Does it have personality, etc., etc.? So it looks like I'm going to be stuck into this a bit of a average, monotonic, typical, probably underfilled PC from Isla Cuba. That's fine. Let me get back to work here a little bit. I can't continue to say the same things over and over again. We'll take a couple more puffs. We'll sign off on the video. We'll come back and we'll take a look at it a little bit later and see whether I've gotten anywhere with it. So thanks for sticking with me and coming back for the remainder of the video. Kind of silly. I just thought I was recording this for about 5 minutes ago, but I forgot to turn the camera on. But as I was saying, or as I've said already, the cigar really hasn't been anything to write home about. I can't tell you that I was really enthralled or in love with this cigar. I'll rate the cigar as average. I don't really tend to put point ratings on a cigar, unless of course it was just over the top and I could say, yeah, oh man, that was a 100-point cigar. This is just this cigar was average, I would say. Now, for some tasting notes, the cigar itself has been developed into being a little harsh. It's 86 degrees in here and about 57 RH, so it's pretty humid. I'm pretty sticky. I had my fan on, but with that blowing on the camera, you wouldn't be able to hear me, so I have to turn it off while I'm doing any videoing. I had to relight it a couple of times, not the cigar's fault, my own fault, because I got a bit absorbed into my project over here for a guy, and I'm glad I got that off my back. But if the cigar were really good, I wouldn't have let the cigar go out. I would have just carried the cigar around, or gone to listening to music, sat here with my fan on, and simply enjoyed the cigar for being a high value cigar to me, meaning that the cigar really delivered the taste and what I wanted from it. Since the cigar really wasn't delivering for me and I just considered it average, I could have taken it and chucked it quite a while ago, except it just more or less satisfied my desire to smoke today. For those of you who like Punch cigars, now again, I don't smoke the Punch. These are the most modern Punch cigars that I have, and most of my older Punches are Super Selection 1s or Super Selection 2s or Royal Selection, whatever it is, the Royal Selection 11. Those are more the Punch cigars that I am more really in tune to than the more modern, say, Punch. So it's hard for me to give advice to the modern Punch smoker based on the fact that I don't know what they taste like. This is certainly nothing like a dress box I have in my test cooler here of the Punch Churchill. This is nothing like that cigar. That cigar is complex and it's just a great adventure. This guy has been pretty much monotonic. And it did have some of that older characteristic that I was looking for. So I can't say that it was completely devoid of that. I can't say that this cigar, or that the purchase of the cigar, was a total waste based on the ability to deliver some of that flavor. I would say generally they've been a waste for me, unfortunately, because I haven't just had very many good ones of these. This was probably in the top 10% of the 50 or so that I've smoked. And again, not excellent by any means, but I don't even know necessarily whether I would toss it into the good category. I really like a cigar that is more complex and is more nuanced. I don't mind the monotony, the monotonic flavor, as long as it really delivers something of interest. And again, this guy just didn't do it. It didn't do it. This is not why I smoked the Royal Selection 12, 10 or 20 years ago. But it's about as close as I've been able to find in a newer vintage cigar. Now, perhaps these particular production runs just haven't been very good. It's really hard for me to condemn, every single cigar now that comes in this little green tube based on the fact that I've smoked 50 of them. That's not really fair, but I can't necessarily advise people to go out and buy these unless, of course, you're a newer smoker. You do not have a reference back to what the cigar used to be like, or what Punch cigars used to be like, and you just happen to be attracted to the flavor and, for lack of a better term, the flavor profile. The retro now is a bit pungent. It kind of pinches my nose a little bit, and the finish on the cigar is moderately long. Of course, the cigar now is relatively short, so that does seem to develop. It does have a bit of a pinch on the sinuses. Again, that could just simply be the youth of the cigar. So take it for what it's worth. If you're looking for that peaty, mushroomy taste of what I typically would call a Punch cigar back in the day, God, I hate that term, but say a decade or so ago, you could visit one of these, and maybe that would rationalize picking up some singles and trying them out for you to make your own decision. But I don't know that I'm necessarily going to be buying any more of them, at least not for several years, until I could see that there would be an opportunity for this cigar to from the factory to have come from a different time, a different era, such that perhaps the tobaccos they were putting in it were different, etc., etc. Because the cigars do not remain constant, year to year, certainly not decade to decade. Got a fly in here now. So that's enough from me on this one. The fly's going to annoy me, and following him around with my eyes is probably going to drive you nuts. That was the Punch Coronations, and that's really about all I have to say on the matter. Thanks for joining me here once more in the Grimpen Mire, and taking the time to watch the video. See you online.